Thousands of Cubans took to the streets over the weekend, speaking out against the communist regime. This as the country struggles with food shortages and an economic crisis. President Biden and U.S. lawmakers expressed their support for the Cuban people on Monday.
President Biden addressed the situation in Cuba Monday afternoon.
The Cuban people demanding their freedom from an authoritarian regime. And I don't think we've seen anything like this protest in a long, long time, if quite frankly ever. The United States stands firmly with the people of Cuba as they assert their universal rights, and we call on the government of Cuba to refrain from violence or attempts to silence the voice of the people of Cuba.
Biden said the Cuba protests are remarkable. In an earlier statement on Monday, he also called on the Cuban regime to hear their people and serve their needs. The White House has been closely monitoring the protests in the country. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warned against targeting of peaceful protesters who are exercising their universal rights. Protests in Cuba erupted on Sunday, with thousands taking to the streets across the country. It comes amid food and medicine shortages, rising prices, along with the CCP virus crisis. But Cuba's leader blamed the United States for the unrest. In capital city Havana, protesters chanted "Freedom, enough, and join" as the police arrived. The police launched tear gas and violently arrested people. The internet service was cut off by the authorities throughout Sunday afternoon. Chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Bob Menendez, said in a statement on Sunday, "The world's eyes are on Cuba tonight, and the dictatorship must understand we will not tolerate the use of brute force to silence the aspirations of the Cuban people." Senator Marco Rubio, who is of Cuban descent, says Cubans are rising up because they want freedom.
They're tired of living under tyranny, and they're tired of living under incompetent leaders. That's what the Cuban regime is. Because socialism and Marxism doesn't work. It's a failure. It's a failure everywhere it's been tried, and it's having a catastrophic impact on the people of Cuba.
And Senator Ted Cruz, the son of a Cuban immigrant, also tweeted his support. He says the communist Cuban regime will be consigned to the dustbin of history, and the American people stand squarely with the men and women of Cuba and their noble fight for liberty. Some analysts say Sunday's demonstrations were the biggest in Cuba since 1994.
Many Cuban citizens are losing their internet connection. Amid large-scale protests across the country's communist regime, local authorities are reportedly shutting down internet service. Authoritarian regimes tend to cut off internet in an attempt to stop anti-government protests from gaining more traction. Similar shutdowns struck earlier this year when pro-democracy protests broke out in Burma or Myanmar. Now, some suspect that China is behind Cuba's internet censorship. Florida Senator Marco Rubio wrote on Twitter that Cubans use a system that was made, sold, and installed by China to control and block access to the internet. What's more, the only company in Cuba that provides internet access has 3 primary tech providers, and all of them are Chinese. The U.S. Defense Department has labeled 2 of them, Huawei and ZTE, as having links to the Chinese military. China leads the world in internet restriction tactics. It's developed a sophisticated system called the Great Firewall that blocks its citizens from visiting websites critical of the Chinese regime.